Welcome to the Neo introduction video for software version 3.8.1. There are dozens of enhancements, bug fixes, and a few new features in this maintenance version of the Neo software. So dive in and let's learn what's new with Neo. A feature that we've had for a little while now is the Window Layout Manager. So under the More pull down, you can go to Window Layout Manager and you can manage your window layout. This essentially would take a snapshot of all of your monitors and store it as a visual layout. So I'm just going to take what I've got now, call it main. I'm not going to apply it to a shortcut because what I'm going to show you is a layout pop-out that we have. So I'm going to say store new layout. I'll make this the default. You'll see a snapshot here. I have a 3-monitor system and my main monitor is my middle monitor. So that's the thumbnail that you're seeing here. So I'm going to close this and now I'm going to open up my patch display and we'll go in and I'll label this patch and close that. Alright, what I want to show you is on the right side of your main monitor, we now have a layout so I can go back and forth between these layouts. We'll be enhancing this further in the next version of software with more flexibility and features, but for right now this is a simple way to get access to your layouts, to always keep it on your main monitor if you wish, or if you wish to hide it and only expose it when you need, then you have the ability to do that with the green arrow. We did add the ability to set up your screen. I'm going to open up my cue list display, and if I type record and click on an empty layout, you can store a new layout, and I'll call it cue list. And now I can go between the main, patch, and my cue list display. So you can set up your layouts. I mean, you still have your hard display buttons to get to your standard displays, but if you want to do specific layouts, and again, the important thing to understand about the window layouts is that it applies to all monitors, so it's a snapshot of your entire visual layout. So now we're going to talk about the features that we have added in patch. This involves copy, move, and swap. So I've already patched up a VL3500 as channel 101, and if I want to copy this to channel 102, I can type 102, I hit the copy button, and it'll say copy from 101, enter. When I do that, I have two options. I can update the patch table, which will copy the all the fixture information from this table, which would include any labels or pan tilt adjustments or profiles in the patch table. The other thing that I can do is include copying show data, which would be data from channel 101 copying to fixture 102 in cues, groups, subs, palettes, and effects. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. That's copied it. Now notice it's also copied the address, which we will likely want to change. So I'm going to go to my DMX outputs. I'll see the red, which indicates we have overlapping addresses. The next one available is 32. So I'm going to come down in here and I'll set that as 2.32 to finish up this copy procedure. Next thing I want to talk about is move. So let's say I want to move 102. So what I'm going to do is hit copy once. I get copy from. I'm going to hit copy again, and that will toggle the move to. And I'm going to say 102 move to 103. And again, I get the options to choose to update the patch table data, update show data. Now again, this is moving information rather than copying it. for the example here, I'll go ahead and hit yes, and that has moved everything over. Now for the last one, which is swap with, I often wind up in the situation during production where either fixtures outputs got swapped during focus or the color got dropped in backwards so that the warm light has the cool gel and the cool has the warm, and oftentimes we just need to swap the patch addresses. So I'm going to take the example of 91 and 92, and I'm going to say 91, let's swap with 92. And again, in a situation like this, I don't want to change or update any show data, but I do want to update the patch table. And when that is done, you'll see that the outputs for 91 and 92 have indeed been swapped. Now there is also a graphical way to do copy, move, and swap, and you get an additional function of exchange with. So if I go to options, copy selected fixture, and I have 98 selected, and I can copy it to whatever channel I designate. I can do a universe offset to a different universe, or just offset the DMAX output. Now I can also go back to options for move and say move selected fixture, and I'll get this dialog box which will come up and ask me to put in the channel number to assign it to move to, right, where it's going to go to. Or I can do swap, which means now I can swap it with a particular channel number and choose whether I want to update show data as an optional item or just swap the output information. So an option that the drop-down dialog box gives you from the options pull down that command line doesn't is fixture type exchange. This is where you can change one type of fixture with another. So here I'm going to grab the VL3500, as the list that's populated here is based upon what's patched. I can filter whether I want to take all 3500s or just a select set of them. Destination fixture can come from the patch list, or it can come from the larger fixture library. So we're going to look at changing out the VL3500 for a VL4000 spot. So go to Philips Fairlight, open that up, scroll down to the VL4000 spot. I'll pick mode 1, and now I'll hit next. Here's where you can adjust the mapping of the parameters from one fixture type to another. So for example, I can look down here at attribute 16, which is gobo speed on the 3500, and see that it's mapped to gobo wheel 2 control. Well, that may not be what I want, so maybe I'll clear that out. We can scroll down until I find gobo timing, and I'll grab the header and move that up and drop it in there. So that's how you can map that information. We can also deal with mapping color and gobo wheels. I'm going to show you an example with the rotating gobo. So for example, on the VL3500 spot, when gobo 1 is used, I might not want on the VL4000 for it to go to alpha rays, so I might say I would like for you to use the leafy breakup instead of alpha rays when that is programmed. So that's essentially how you go about setting up your fixture type changed. When you are done, you can go back to the adjust mapping and say exchange fixture. For those of you that like to use the record option for creating a queue and letting the Neo console manage the queue numbers for you, we have added in system properties under show defaults a queue record increment. So I'm going to set my increment to 2, and now if I go to the console and do record from Q1, it's going to record Q3 doing an increment of 2. Now this will continue based upon that increment. So you can set that increment to whatever whole number you want. Now I'm going to record a Q 5.5, And if I do record now in the point cues, it's going to add uh, another single digit, another tenth to the point cue. So it won't do the increment at that point, but it will just go to the next tenth. Now, if I record a cue with 2 digits on the point cue, then record. We'll do the same thing here as well, as it will just go up uh, one on the singles digit rather than the tens digit. But if we are in a place where we have whole numbers, then the increment number will apply. So next we're going to talk about is the addition of a programmer view. What I'm going to do to take advantage of this on my main monitor is to go under View, switch to Dockable Frame, which will give an open framework. It's essentially a chalkboard, and you can sort of put different views on here as you wish. So I'm now going to go into View, and I'm going to say Open a new view of channels, Programmer, and what this will do, and I will take this and dock this in the top half of this window. So a programmer only has selection for, or only displays what you have selected. So if I do 101 full for my VL3500, then that will put that there. If I say 1 through 5 at 3, then they're going to show up, and 51 plus 53 plus 55 at 50, and they will show up. So again, we've added a programmer view, which is more familiar to those of you from live event desks. There is now a submaster default record mode. Now we all know in Neo that subs are just sliders that are assigned to groups. So until now, and I'll go into System Properties, Show Defaults, and until now this has been covered under the group default record mode. Well, with user feedback, we found that many times when you're recording subs, you want to treat those a little differently than you do groups. So the group default record mode will remain defaulted to selected. This will allow you to record a group while a queue is active and not select the entire queue's levels. Submaster default record mode has now been set to active so that you can record all active channels, and an active channel has a level above 0. There's a new sub bump button feature called Mark Attributes. Now I've recorded fixture 103 into a submaster. You can see as I can bring it up and down, and the parameters will scale just the way intensity does depending upon the position of the fader, anywhere from 0 to full. I'm going to go into my groups display, and we can see under bump action there's a pull down, and I'm going to go to the new one, Mark Attributes. I'll close that window. Now if I press the bump button, it will mark the attributes, and now I have slider control, and it will stay there for me as long as that button is active. If I press the button again, the attributes will return to whatever else is controlling them, and then my sub will work in a normal fashion. So that is Mark Attributes. Alright, the next feature is the ability to turn off tracking during playback. So I've created 5 cues. It's simply Q1 at full is Q1, 2 at full Q2, 3 at full Q3, and so on and so forth. And I'm running through this cues, and you can see, remember the colors, that blue means it's a change for level going up, and magenta is a tracked value. If I do Shift Q list, it will show me my track sheet, and we can see here in a spreadsheet format the information where the instructions are in the cues and where the tracked values are. I'll hit close, and we run that, everything's fine. Now I'm going to go to Q1, and prior to running this, I'm going to turn off the ability to run tracked values during playback. So go in my cue list, I'll go to Options, Cue List Behavior, and here we have tracking enabled during playback turned on, checked, and I will turn it off. I will close that window. I now get a display showing me that playback tracking is turned off, and you can see as I run the queues, playback is turned off. So it's a new option for you. Obviously this is a very simple example. Um, I, Most of the time this is used with attributed fixtures, but there's a new feature. Select Changed is a very useful button, especially if you're doing things like recording groups while the queue is active. You can use that button to select everybody that has changed, because that's the default mode that recording groups are used. We've made this a little more powerful dealing with values from submasters. So you can see here I'm sitting in a queue that has levels going up and levels going out. I have channels that I have changed, 15, 17, and 19. I also have channel 103 that is levels from a sub. We know that because it's yellow. So if I press select changed, it's just going to grab 15, 17, and 19, because it now takes your submaster record button into account. So I'm going to hit clear selected, and then I'm going to turn on record include subs just by pressing the sub button. And now when I press select changed, it grabs what has changed plus the levels from a submaster. So that should add some functionality for everyone regarding the select change button. For those of you that like a dialog box recording solution, I have 103 that I've selected in move pan and tilt, so I can press and hold record and then toggle position, and it will bring up a dialog box to record position where you can enter information into the text boxes, turn features on and off, and use the familiar dialog box recording solution for palettes. Pressing record, then next, will auto-populate the next whole number at the end of the queue list for you automatically. Taking queue timing and queue delay back to defaults is now very simple. So I'm sitting in queue 6, I'm going to give it a time of 8 just by doing time 8 enter. And now if I want to take that back to default, I can just hit time enter, and that will take it back to default. Same thing would happen to delay. So if I say delay 3 to apply a 3 count delay, if I just do delay enter, that will take it back. The other powerful option here is this will work on ranges of queues. Complex timing, which is individual parameter timing, can now be applied from the command line. So here I have 103 at full. I'm going to spin my zoom encoder to give it a zoom value, and now I want to have that zoom change in a time of 0. So what I'm going to do is press and hold the encoder for zoom, and it puts the channel and zoom at on the command line. I then hit time 0 enter. Notice there is a marker for complex timing, and then I would simply record or update the queue, and now I have an indicator for complex timing. And if I do shift live, it will go in and show me the timing information. I can see zoom has a time of 0. Live will get me back to the level screen. In System Properties and Visualizer, the list of visualizers has been updated to reflect who we can communicate with. That would be Capture and WYSIWYG. We now have a way to undo the properties of a queue. That would include time, delay, follow, text, and block. So if you look at the sidebar queue list, I've got a delay on 1 and a time on 2 that I've changed. And if I do undo time, notice it says undo queue, time, delay, follow, text, or block. And that will undo the last thing that I did, which was changing a time on Q2. A undo pull down for this, so now under queue properties, if I want to undo the change that I did on Q1, then I can undo that property change, and that will take away delay. And last on this video will be a list of additional features. There will be a full list of release notes that will be published. So enjoy the new software. Thank you for watching this Neo operational video for software version 3.8.1. Go to the Philips Strand website at www.strandlighting.com for many more videos on Neo programming and operation.